Good morning, everyone. This is Emily Taylor. I am live in my studio. It's Monday, of course, at 11 o'clock Mountain Time. I am so excited to have you join me today because I have a lot of really fun announcements and I have a very special guest. Let's see if I can. Okay, I'm going to turn her off for just a minute and then she'll be joining us in just a second. So what is the date? It is the 13th, June 13th. So number one, the first announcement that I have is we are so excited. Amelia and I are so excited to be hosting our very first private retreat up at the homestead in Midway, Utah. And that begins this Wednesday. So on the 15th through the 18th, I have guests coming from all over the country and Canada who will be staying at the homestead with me. And we will spend 3 days just doing collage quilting and talking about creativity and how to elevate our collage quilts into artwork. And we're going to enjoy the beautiful mountains and some really good food. So I am so excited to host my friends that have registered for that. If you are interested, there is another retreat that's in October. Now that retreat is full, but if you sign up to be notified, sometimes things happen and we have people that can't make it. In fact, one of my dear friends that's on Facebook just let us know that she can't make it to this June retreat. So if there's anyone out there who, drop of the hat, is really, really interested in coming to this retreat this week, and you can drop everything in your life and come, just email me. You can email me at emily@collagequilter.com and we can slide you in. Okay, so that's that. We're really excited about that. Now I want to introduce to you the next block that's in our garden party quilt along. So this Poppy is the next block, is this week's block. This will be arriving in your inboxes today, right after this video. It is not too late to join along in the quilt along. We're only halfway through. And so if you purchase the quilt along today, you'll be given everything. You'll be given everything up until now. And then you'll be getting a new quilt, a new block every single week. So the other thing that I want to mention is, let's see, we have a new video that's on YouTube that you might want to watch. So this video that I just posted on YouTube is about joining your blocks. So this is a quilt as you go project. And I am quilting this on my domestic machine, my Bernina. And so I quilt each block independently. And then the idea is that we're going to be joining these blocks as we go. So here's the back side. Here's the front side. It's just a lovely, nice, clean seam. And so the video tutorial about making that is on my YouTube channel. Okay, so while we're talking about quilting, this is Quilt As You Go, and I'm quilting this with my domestic, my Bernina machine. I love doing that, but I kind of learned really pretty quickly that I don't love using my long arm machine so much. In fact, I'm just not very good at it. So I have a special guest today that I am so excited to introduce you to. This woman, Marion McClellan is her name, and she lives in Payson, Utah. And so if I ever have a quilt that I really care about, I ship it off to Marion because she is a genius at what she does. So let's see if I can bring her into this forum. Okay. Now, let's see. Can everybody tell me if you can see Marion and I? She's on. Okay, good. Amelia, so say hello, Marion. We are so excited to have you.
Thanks.
So I have a few questions for Marion, and then as usual, if you have questions for Marion, you can type them in the chat, and after we kind of get done with our discussion, I'll go through and make sure that we have answered any of your questions. Okay, so Marion, I just want to tell you thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life and everything that you have going on. Thank you so much for being here for me, but especially for my audience. We have a lot to learn from you, and probably I get so many questions about quilting, and I am not a quilting expert. You're the quilting expert, and so that's why I wanted to have you on. And I'm so grateful for the beautiful, beautiful work you've done on all of the quilts that I've sent to you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you, Emily. I always am so excited when I get a message from you saying a quilt's coming.
Oh, you're so sweet. You're so sweet.
No, you're such an artist. Your eye is it's so good. You just do a beautiful job. I love quilting for you.
Well, we're a good team then, right? Okay, so I have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
I prepped her beforehand. So the first one, I want to know about your family. I want to know a little bit more about you. So tell me about how many children you have, how old they are, and your grandkids. I want to know about them.
Those grandkids. Well, I am, my husband and I, we've been married for 32 years, and we've been in Utah, I think, yeah, for all of it. We were students. We have we've got 6 kids.
Come on, Marion.
No, funny story. I was pregnant with our 6th child, and we were in the grocery store, and someone said, "Oh, what number is this?" And I said, 4.
What? Oh my gosh.
I was like,
I think we lost you. We've got kind of a rocky connection. I think, Marion, that is so funny because I think that's what pregnancy does to your brain, right? Like it just turns it into mush. Okay, so it looks like she's back again.
My daughter called me, and hopefully you didn't hear my curse word. But
no, we didn't. Glad to know that you say those words too.
No. So yes, I have got 6 kids. Our oldest is 30, and she's married and has a darling granddaughter, Livy. And then our second daughter is 27.
Uh-huh. So here's the funny thing, Marion, I think we lost you just for a second again, but she can't be that much older than me, but I know you've got grandkids. Okay, volume, we're not hearing you. Hang on a second.
Am I back?
You're back. Okay.
Oh, good. All right. Say a word, Emily.
Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh well, but you can hear me, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And then, 6 kids. The next, I have a younger daughter who's 25 who keeps calling me and interrupting the video. And then I have a 21-year-old son, an 18-year-old son, and a 16-year-old son. And they're all just remarkable humans. I'm cool. Constantly in shock and amazement at how well it's going.
Oh, good. So can you hear me now?
I can't hear you at all, so I'm not sure if I should back up or
look in the chat, and I will
leave.
No, look in the chat, and I'll type what you can't hear. I'm going to type in the chat. Okay.
I don't know. Do I need to back out?
Sure. Try joining one more time. Okay. Oh gosh, dang. Okay. Let's do, so I want to back up a little bit. I'm going to back you out, Marion, and let's see if we can get this connection working better.
To see.
Okay.
My microphone says it's on.
Marion, can you hear me again? Doesn't sound like it. Oh, shoot. Can you hear me yet?
I still can't hear you. I don't know why.
Okay. You know what? Let me text you. I'm going to text you. Amelia, will you text her real quick?
On your phone?
Yeah. Tell her that I'm going to put in the chat so she can see what I'm writing in the private chat. Ask her if she can see the private chat.
Oh, I hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. Folks, I'm so sorry about technology. Sometimes technology can be awesome and it can be so frustrating too.
Oh, I probably touched something. So, okay.
Or
so
maybe
those are my kids.
Okay, cool. Now we both have 16-year-old sons, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Both of us, our youngest child is 16. Is he going to be a junior in high school?
Yeah, he's going to be a junior.
Okay, cool. And you live in Payson. So does he go to Payson High School?
He does. He does about half of his classes at Payson High School and half at called the ALC, the Advanced Learning Center, which is where they do a lot of concurrent enrollment and
Neat.
other fun things.
That's awesome. And so
Robots.
how many grandbabies do you have?
We have 5, 2 granddaughters and 3 grandsons, and the
Oh,
baby, and they're fantastic. And I just am constantly surprised at how much better grandkids are.
I hear you rave all the time. I mean, I see you rave on social media about your grandbabies. How old are your grandbabies?
I have 2 that are almost exactly the same age that are 7, and then there's a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Oh,
Maybe she's 4. She is a spitfire. I have to tell you, my granddaughters I'm so impressed with my girls and how they're raising these little humans to be,
yeah.
they're so independent, and we joke that there's this fine line between squishing their spirit and crushing their souls and, like letting them do their thing.
Yeah.
Keeping them out of jail. They're just it's so fun to watch them. It's so fun to know that things kind of turn out in the end, because I've got my older kids, and yet just really not worry about any of the small stuff with the grandkids. They're just.
And what do they call you?
They call me Nana.
I love Nana. That's what my kids call my grandma or my mom.
That was my great grandmother. Yeah. So I'm Nana, and my husband's Poppy, and
Cute.
It's really cute. They all go through a phase. All of them have done it when they can't do the na part, so they're like Nana.
I bet they love their Nana. I bet they just love her. Oh, so fun.
FaceTime. Thank heavens for FaceTime.
Do they live here or are they elsewhere?
No, one of them lives in Provo, which is great. And then the other 4, they live in San Diego.
Oh, got it. Well, not a bad place to go visit, right?
It's not bad. It's not bad. He's in the military, so they kind of go between coasts. And right now I'm so glad we have him in San Diego. It's so much easier to get to them.
Yeah, good. So you have a son in the military, or is that your son-in-law?
My son-in-law. Yeah, he's active military with the Navy, and
fantastic.
Doing his amazing, really difficult job. So
that's really cool. Well, we all support him back home, and we're grateful for what he's doing.
We're so proud of him.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so let's dive into your profession a little bit. First of all, how did you become a long arm professional? And along with this question, like, I'm thinking back when I first met you. I think that we met, I believe it was through Emily Herrick.
Yeah.
And I think we were up in Midway. We were at
a lunch. I think we met at that restaurant outside. I think that was the first time I met you in real life. Yeah.
There was a retreat who was it that put that retreat on? Natalia Bonner.
Was it Natalia's? I think it was Natalia.
And so that was the first time that we met, right? That was probably 15 years ago, maybe? I don't know.
It was probably 2012 or 2013.
Okay, so about 10 years ago.
Whatever, that's what I'm kind of guessing, because I started quilting, it was January 15th, 2012 or something ridiculous like that.
Okay,
that was my first day quilting.
As a professional long armor?
No, just that was the first. I'd always I joke about the quilting ancestors. And so I'd always had this draw to quilting. I made each of my babies a quilt. I, drew it out on engineering paper, and, would make these with a terrible sewing machine that really didn't work. And my mom had called me that day. She was headed off on vacation and said, "Hey, let's take a quilting class when I get back." And literally that day, she was going to be gone for almost 3 months. I think by the time she got back, I'd made, 17 quilts. And
oh my goodness.
I struggle with being reasonable. And so I kind of do everything full bore, straight into the deep end. And so I had my first quilt finished and quilted myself in a couple or 3 days and was on to the next one. I went in full bore, full
You just,
bore.
yeah. Well, we all understand. Everybody that's watching and that's in the quilt world, we understand, because this is the most amazing, enriching thing, right? Like, we just love it. Now, I was just reminded, you have a really interesting story about how you, so the name of your company is My Quilt Diet, and you have an interesting story about getting hit by a car, right?
I did.
I remember that from the first time I met you. Will you share that? This is crazy.
I know. I used to be a distance runner, and it was a few days before the St. George Marathon in, I think, 2010, and I was out running.
And you were planning to run the marathon, right?
I didn't get in the marathon, so I was crying in my soup that I was at home running and not at the marathon with everybody else.
Got it.
So I was at home and I was running, and I was about 3/4 of a mile away from my house, and a car ran a stop sign and didn't see me, and they hit me. And so I kind of remember just being up on top of the car.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm 5'10", so and she slams on her brakes, which shoots me into the intersection. And so I'm laying on the ground and I'm thinking, what if she doesn't see me? And I'm like looking up underneath her car. And so all of a sudden I think she's going to run me over, because she did not see a full grown woman on her windshield. So I immediately I'm like, am I broken? Can I get up? And this is, all real time, instantaneous. So I find out, I'm like, okay, I think I can get up. So I get up and I take off. Like I start headed down the road, and she gets out of her car. She was getting off a night shift at the hospital. She gets out of the car and she's like, ma'am, sit down. And I like scream back at her, you didn't stop at the stop sign. Get your car out of the intersection.
Oh, geez.
Completely. And she's like, please sit down. Please sit. And what I didn't realize is that I was covered in blood. I was covered in road rash. I was, and so I tried calling my husband, but I didn't get any words out because I was apparently hysterical. And so all he heard was hit by a car. And so he knows that he's at work, and he knows that I run all over. I mean, I could be I could be anywhere within 10 miles of our house.
Oh gosh.
And so he has no idea where I am. And people are stopping. Ma'am, please sit down. Please sit down. And I'm just the hysterical, ugly cry. And I get down to the corner and I'm thinking, oh, I don't feel good.
Oh,
I don't feel good. And I'm like, but there was no curb, so I couldn't sit down. So I thought, okay, I'll go across the street because there's a curb over there. So I'm still hysterical, go across the street. And then I see my friend's house and I'm like, oh, I can go to my friend's house. And but I get to my friend's house and and I'm across the street and I hear the door opening and I think, if she answers the door, I'll go. But if her husband answers the door, I'm not. And it was her husband. So I just, again, hysterically crying, wave at him. I get a little further up the street, and that's when I realize there's blood everywhere.
Oh,
and
God.
Then I start crying harder because I think, I'm one of those cats. I'm like one of those cats that gets hit by the car and then goes and runs off in the bushes and dies. And so, and then by that point, I can see my driveway. So I get to my house, and just as I'm walking up my driveway, across the street is the fire department, and I see the fire department pulling out.
Oh my
and I'm always wondering where the fire department's going. So I'm thinking, I wonder where they're going. and I think, well, if they're coming, and then it like dawns on me, well, if they're coming to my accident, they're too late. So I get in my house. I get in the house. I'm hysterical. I'm crying hysterically. My daughter's in the kitchen. She can hear me. I go around so she can't see me. I'm in the bathroom. I'm trying to figure out where the blood's coming from. I'm
Oh.
hysterical. And then all of a sudden the door just bang, 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 bang on the front door. And the whole fire department's in our front yard.
Oh.
So when they got the call, so when the poor lady who hit me called me, she called 911, and she's like, okay, the woman's got a broken leg, she's got a broken hip, she has a concussion, she's bleeding all over the place, and she took off.
And she's hysterical.
And she just took off. And she's like, I have to follow her. And the 911 lady said, no, stay with your car. We'll put out a APB or whatever they call it. So they do the fire department thing. And so as the fire chief, they're pulling out, they see me walk in my house. And one of them says to a guy who's my neighbor, is like, a lady matching, the crazy lady matching the description, like I think walked into that house. And my friend's like, well, she's a runner, maybe it's her. So the only reason they found me was by pure chance. They
knocked on your door.
And they knock on my door. They come in the house, and they all know me. And they come in the house. They're like, please sit down. Please sit down. And I'm like, I can't sit down. I'll bleed on the sofa. And they're just, okay, can we clear off the coffee table? Will you sit on the coffee table maybe? Anyway, we have a rule in our family that if you get hit by a vehicle, you don't get to decide whether you go to the emergency room or not.
Oh, geez. My gosh, you have a rule.
It was probably like 3 days later when I finally came out of shock that I'm like, why didn't you make me go to the emergency room? It's like, you were determined, you were fine. You said, I'll just go to my orthopedic surgeon. And I went to my sports guy, and he's like, why didn't you go to the emergency room?
Well, what injuries did you have?
It was all soft tissue. I had some dislocated ribs. The blood came from cuts and road rash. But I was in like physical therapy for 2 years.
Oh, gosh.
You should never get hit by a car
and run away.
Or like, it kind of ruined all the Mission Impossible movies for me when they get hit by the car and then they get up and they're like,
yeah, stronger than ever.
That's not it. That's not true.
I don't know. It sounds like you were pretty Mission Impossible then. Like
adrenaline. Yeah. Adrenaline. And runners, if you know any long distance runners, you always finish.
Yeah.
That's funny. Anyway.
So Marion, did that eventually lead somehow into your quilting?
Well, it sort of did. So I couldn't run anymore. And I was just really frustrated because I was running a lot. Like, between 35 and 45 miles a week.
That is a lot.
It's a lot of running. And that's a lot of calories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so when, and then there's my husband had been really seriously injured at a similar time, and he was about to have another surgery, and he would be non-ambulatory for about 13 weeks. And it would require full-time care. And so I needed something that I could do to keep my mind off of anything else. Anyway, so that's why I started quilting. Was I thought, if I'm going to sit and stare at him for 13 weeks, I need something to do. So that was the impetus for this crazy obsession career that I just fell into.
I love that story. And I only just remembered it when you said something a few minutes ago about, I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to have everybody hear that story because it's so classic. And it's just, we are drawn to quilting when we have big changes in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And quilting is it's such an amazing thing. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few more questions.
Sure.
So I want everybody to understand that when I send Marion a quilt, I don't give her any instruction about how I want it quilted. I just say, work your magic, because I really feel like, Marion, you are an artist in your own right, and she's so good. Everything I get back from her, it's like waiting for Christmas to get your packages back so I can see what you've done. It's so fun for me to see
Oh, same. I am always, like I said, it is so, for me, quilting really is, it's generational for most of us. Even if our moms didn't do it, it's part of our history as
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
And it's just, and to me, I just love being a part of a quilt's history, part of its story, part of
Yeah.
I love that. And so I'm always excited when you
I think we
send
share
it.
that deep passion. There's just something we're passionate about it.
Yeah.
So tell us then, when I send you something, what is your, how do you decide what to quilt? Like, what is your design process? What do you think about? What do you look at? How do you do it? How do you figure it out what you're going to quilt?
That's such a great question. So collage quilting is quite a bit different than for traditional quilting.
Mhm.
It's not the same. So the trick in collage quilting, at least for me when I look at them, is because when you're up close, you see those little pieces of fabric. I think the first one I did for you was your bear,
Yeah, I think it was.
and right up close, it's, I don't want to call it messy, but
Yes.
it's just these little things. But when you
Yeah.
pull way back, you can see the outline of the bear, and you can
Right.
see an eye and the crevices and different parts. And so when I look at your quilts, my first goal always is to not ruin the quilt.
Thank you. That's
That
why I
is
send them to you and I don't quilt them myself.
that is my first rule. And then especially with the collage quilting, you really want to keep in mind, first of all, the goal is you want everything stuck down.
Mhm.
So you want
Right.
all the corners and everything stuck down, but you don't want, like, if it's a leaf on, some of yours, you have the long, I'll call them a banana leaf. It probably was an orchid. I don't know, but
Mhm.
you want the quilting to go along with what the thing is.
Mhm. We have
Um,
a few of those small quilts, like
yeah, with it, it's,
these.
and so sometimes, like if it's a poppy or even a mum, I'll say a mum. Mums are really circular in how they grow. So you
Mhm.
want the quilting to emphasize what the actual thing looks like.
Right.
And if it's a long stem,
So I'm going to show, this is one, for instance.
yeah,
I It's hard to see because she does such a good, beautiful, but you can kind of
it's
see how you've decided, okay, it's just going to be circular, and it's just complements the flower so perfectly. And then
that's a main trick.
yeah, and the leaves are very, you create veins with the leaves, so yeah, I see what you're saying with
Yeah,
that.
and you want depth too. So the
Mhm.
the more dense is going to recede back, the less dense is going to pull forward.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and you kind of won't, definitely don't always get it right, because sometimes I think, oh goodness.
Do you
But
really?
yeah, well, so like sometimes when your face is in a project
Yeah.
and you're looking at that going, oh, but then you step back, you stick it on a wall, you look at it later and go, oh, okay, I can see how that can be different. One of the most important things, though, when I am quilting for someone is, or I think the most important question is, are there any motifs, quilting designs that you hate or that you don't like? And
Yeah.
so that's on my intake form for my quilts. That I think is one of my most important questions, is not only are there motifs you like,
Mhm.
but are there ones you like? I have customers who hate hearts.
Ah,
I have customers who hate feathers. Um, Customers who really want everything very angular. And so it's always it's always my intention. I am a very I really try and set an intention with each quilt. And my intention is that I'll honor the quilt and the design and be inspired with things that the person will like.
got it. So
Um,
that leads me to my next question then. Do you do you prefer to have somebody just give you a blank slate and let you do what you want to do, or do you prefer to have some direction from a client?
So yes and no. I really, really like it when, especially if it's not someone I know, which is most of my customers are, I meet them on Instagram.
Yep.
Um, I really like it when they'll go through my feed and maybe send me examples of things they like.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's not a quilter, which happens, we get a lot of first-time quilters, they
Mm-hmm.
often aren't sure like what the words are for
Yeah.
what they like. Maybe they like the color scheme and it's not really the quilting design, or maybe they like the quilting design and it's
Got it.
so I'll often have I'll ask people just to send me little messages on Instagram of things they really like, but especially if there's something they really don't like.
Okay. So
That's
that makes me think. Let's make sure, are you okay if can we post and share your Instagram feed
oh
with
yeah, oh
everybody?
please do, yes.
Okay.
My
So
quilt diet on Instagram.
Amelia's going to pull it up on Instagram and put the actual link in the chat here.
Wonderful.
So if you're watching this, go and check out her quilting. And I love your feed too, because it shows your dog and shows little snippets of your life and who you are. And I I have really loved getting to know you through your social media. There are
Oh,
some things
thank you.
that I know about you that I have such admiration.
Oh, thank
This
you.
woman is a good Christian, loving, charitable, compassionate woman that makes the world a better place
Thanks.
aside from quilting. And so that's one thing I have a lot of admiration for you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so nice. We're so fortunate. I mean, I know that social media can be really complex and it can be really challenging for a lot of people,
Mhm.
but we would never know each other.
Right. It's really
There's so many we
it's
are we, there's so many great, amazing
mhm.
people we get to know in really, I mean, obviously non-meaningful ways,
Yeah,
but also in really meaningful ways.
for sure. Yeah, I am very grateful, and I sing the praises of social media, because it does allow us to connect and get to know people and be inspired by people and see people doing good work and being charitable and kind and reflecting the things that are important to me. So I thank you for that.
You're lucky. Thank you.
And don't you find that with the quilt community in general? I mean, it is just Amelia and I were just having a conversation about how grateful I am to be in this community of people where the majority of the people that are in our community are really amazing, compassionate, good, and they make the world a better place. And we need this goodness in the world more than any time ever, right? So,
We
oh
need
gosh.
commonality. We need compassion. I was speaking with a friend this weekend, and I just had used the word grace,
Mhm.
and she said that is my mantra word, and I'm
Mhm.
like, you know what? I think that is our the most important things we can focus on are compassion and grace for each other and understanding and focusing on commonality and especially the beautiful things that we do. There's nothing like artwork. There's nothing like art.
Mhm.
I consider music art, so we'll throw music in there too. But those things that really touch our souls and bring us comfort and calm and
Well,
peace.
I think, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think that's why we have this deep passion towards quilting, because quilts are a physical embodiment of our love and compassion for somebody, right? We make
Yeah.
quilts to embrace someone with our love, and that just gives me goosebumps that we can be part of this creative process. I think creativity is also what it means to be divine, to
Yeah.
have divinity within us. That creation, when we can kind of explore that and bring that out and use it for the better, for to express love to someone, I think that is just the best, right? And we
Well,
need more of
it's a
that.
beautiful feeling too, and I'm sure you felt that connection to, when you ask about quilts and what do I do, I have a really dear friend and I quilt for her all the time, and she brought me this one quilt and she did not want very much done to it.
Mhm.
But the more I kept looking at this quilt, I just said, Mary Lynn, I'm so sorry, but this quilt is insisting that I quilt it this certain way.
Uh-huh.
The quilting ancestors, the universe, God, I don't know, but I have to quilt. I apologize, but I'm not going to do what you told me, and it has to be done this way.
Well,
And
tell
she
us about
was,
the outcome.
well, the thing that was so interesting that I didn't realize, and because she didn't tell me anything about who this quilt was for, but this quilt was for, she recently became in contact with a biological grandchild that she did not know.
Oh.
And yeah, it was, and I just, and she's, so I'm telling her and I'm giving it to her and I'm like, I'm sorry, this is way more. And she just burst into tears and she's like, I didn't, anyway, but it just ended up being something that was really meaningful for the person who it was given to, who didn't necessarily feel that connection to to their biological family. And, but I love it when things like that happen, because every once in a while I'll be like, I'm sorry, the quilting ancestors are being very pushy. And this quilt is requiring, so I really like that. But my intention always is that whomever the quilt is, that they'll love it, that it will honor their hard work. Everyone's, for the most part, most of the quilts I get are just, they're perfection. They're so good. They're so good. And one time I got one that was just, they're just not words. I had never seen something wonky. I'll use the word wonky. And I remember talking to my friend, Conda Lukau, an amazing quilter and a pattern designer. And she said, the one thing I remind myself when I get a quilt that is not perfection, which doesn't happen often, but sometimes, is that this quilt was made by someone with their very best talents, their very best intentions. It is made with, their passion and their love for whoever it's gifted to. And I'm always so glad that she taught that. And it was right when I was starting. It was at the very beginning of long arming for customers, because I really didn't know what to do aside from remaking the entire quilt. Which wasn't a possibility, but I loved that thought when she shared that with me, that everyone who brings me their work, it's their best work.
Let's be gentle with them.
It's their heart, it's their love, and my job is to just
bring out the best,
bring out the very best. And fortunately, Conda knew a lot of tricks for overcoming some, which was super helpful.
Cool.
But I love being part of that. And I really am honored when anyone asks me to be a part of their quilts story.
Awesome. That's so cool. So I have a few more questions. I know people are really anxious to have these particular nitty-gritty technical details answered. So tell us about your preferred thread, particularly as it relates to collage quilting, your preferred thread, your preferred needle, and any tricks that you have for doing collage quilting, especially those quilts that have been that we've used steam-a-seam with.
The steam-a-seam. So steam-a-seam's a funky little guy.
Yeah.
He can be a funky guy. So a couple things I've learned: really understand your machine. Most companies have great educational resources. So if you know you're going to be working, I'm going to plug my phone in really fast. I just noticed that it dropped down. Okay. So plugged in. Anyway, Gamel, I have a Gamel.
Uh-oh, we're having some buffering issues. Okay, let's see here. I don't want to click refresh because I'm afraid I'll lose you, but oh, there you are. Okay. Oh, shoot. We lost your sound. Can you hear me? Dang it, technology. Let's see here. Okay. I'm going to, can you hear me now? We can't hear you. Technology can be so fun. I can't hear you. Let me see. Yeah, we've got a bad connection. I'm going to turn your screen. Okay, yeah, let's just take you off for just a second and then we'll get you back on here. Okay, try now. Oh, shoot. It makes me sad. Makes me sad that we can't hear you. Okay, so I'm going to, you keep working on your end. Try
Better now?
Yes. There we go. Thank you.
Dang it.
Okay, so go ahead and let's answer those questions about working with Steam-A-Seam, and you were talking about the resources that, and you have a Gamel. Can she not hear you? Uh-oh, there we go again. Okay, so I'm going to answer this. Somebody just asked, is there some place to see her work other than on Instagram? So yes, we've posted her blog. It's a Blogspot blog post. It doesn't, I was looking at her blog post or her blog. I don't know how current it is, but there's a ton of great information there. So that is in the chat. You can check that out. And you can follow her on Find Marion on Facebook as well. So let me just go back. Amelia, have you seen any other questions while we're waiting for Marion to try and hop back on?
Yeah, there was a question for you.
Okay.
Do you have an overall, is she back?
Let's see. Let's try and get her back. Can we hear you?
Are you there? I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, don't touch anything.
Okay, don't touch anything.
No touch. No touch. No touch.
Okay.
No touch. My hands are folded right here. So anyway,
Okay, let's hear about your.
So know your machine. Be really and contact your manufacturer. Find out what tricks they have. I have a Gamel Optimum, so it is a workhorse. It will quilt anything. People are worried. I'm like, no, my machine will quilt it. But I have learned that with Steam-A-Seam and with the collage, I always use a 21 needle or maybe a little bit larger. That helps a ton. Sometimes with the smaller needles, you can get skipping on the Steam-A-Seam, and that can be really frustrating. So buy a very good needle. I buy them from Superior Threads. And I love their titanium ones, but whatever kind you can get. And I know there's other numbers. I usually quilt with a 16 or a 19, but I always put in a 21. At least I think it's a 21. Heavier when I'm quilting.
Okay.
Collage and batiks, like you use that for other ones.
Okay.
For thread, I always use So Fine Thread by Superior.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also found Superior has, and other places have great collections. If you have a thread you like and it's working well, stick with it. But a lot of variegated threads can actually work really well with collage quilting. And so you may even not even notice on your quilts that I use them frequently, but sometimes it's great, especially when you're using, I've noticed on yours when you're using the orange or the reds and the oranges and the purples.
Yeah.
Or, there's kind of the greens and yellows and blues. So those variegated threads can be really convenient. So you're not having to change threads so much, but they also kind of recede back into the quilt a little bit, which is why it's hard to take pictures of them.
Yeah.
Because, the object isn't for you to look at that quilt and go, look at that thread. The object is that your artwork is stuck to the fabric and that it looks like a flower or that it looks like a eggplant or whatever it is.
Right. Okay. So that's great information. So just to recap then, you recommend when you're doing steam a seam and collage a 21 size 21 needle or larger.
Yeah.
And I'll just add too,
Yeah.
I'm sure you do this. Always test things if you have any question, folks. Like I always keep a little, piece by my Bernina so that I can make sure I am testing the stitches and the tension and the thread and everything, right? Like, don't you think that's a good practice?
Always. And the more
Marion,
you
you're
do
probably
things,
so good you don't even do that.
well, it depends because, like you said, sometimes with steam seam, I'm familiar with my machine now that if there's a problem, I usually can see it really quickly. In the beginning, I was always lots of tests. So when you're first, yes, because you want to make sure that your tension is right. Sometimes really tricky with all those layers to get the tension correct. And sometimes you have to settle for the tension looking the best on the top, and the back might be a little funkier. I have another customer who does a layered applique. And so sometimes because of the steam a seam, I just have to focus on keeping the front looking. Might be a few little eyelashes on the back, which I hate. But it is a piece of art, and sometimes those layers are just nuts.
Yep.
They're just.
Well, I've never noticed
really
anything
hard.
Action.
Oh, thank you. just let him go, honey. My dog. So he's just checking. He's crying.
Oh well.
And
oh, he wants his mama.
I know. Now he's licking them. So it's pedicures.
That's right. Okay, let's see. So those are some fantastic tips, Marion. Thank you so much. And I feel like we've gone way over the amount of time that I want to. I don't want to keep you any longer. I am going to ask this one question because I think this is a good one, and then we'll let you go. Is Marion doing any computerized or free motion quilting on the long arm for the collages?
All free motion. I don't have a computer at all on my machine. There's no computer, regulator. It's all just me. I even tried. I went to a Gamel retreat and they had top of the line. I'm like, I just want my machine back. I like my machine. I love. It's an extension of I come from a long line of artists. Amazing artists. They're remarkable. And I always wondered where my art form was and where's my talent. Excited when I found long arm quilting because I thought, oh, here it is. I can do this. I can't draw. Do not ask me to draw what quilt you want me to do. I cannot draw it, but I can draw it on my machine. I can do a 3-dimensional large.
Wow.
But I can't.
That's amazing. It's amazing to hear that this is your art form, and I have such appreciation for it, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'm so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And keep up your good work. And everybody who is interested, you can find her, Marion, on Instagram. And is that the best way to contact you? Just message you through Instagram?
Yep.
Okay.
Instagram is fantastic. They can email me directly.
And what's your email address?
Which you can add in the links.
Okay.
It's marion.mcclellan@gmail.com. So
I remember that.
F as in Frank. Yep, it's full. It's really long. If you send me a message
Gmail, right?
At Gmail, yes. If you send me a message on Instagram, that works fantastic. And I'll get you my take form.
Perfect.
And
okay, we got it. Fantastic. Marion, thank you so much for joining us. I've really enjoyed visiting with you today. And everybody, thank you so much
thank-
for your kind comments and for joining us. And we will get another quilt done and down to you again soon.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Bye, everybody. Have a great day and a good week.
Thank you. Bye.